Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. The title of our today's module is Environment and Public Interest Litigation. The purpose and learning outcomes of this module is to explain the relationship between the public interest litigation in India and environment protection. We will also discuss the role played by the Indian judiciary covering the Supreme Court as well as High Courts, having played the role in the protection of environment through public interest litigation and to develop the environmental jurisprudence by incorporating various principles of international environmental law. Apart from this, module shall also focus upon developing the understanding of the learners towards various principles of international environmental law and the relevant case law through which the Indian judiciary has incorporated and developed Indian environmental law. Friends, as we are aware that the growth and improvement of humanity depend upon environment. The man has to utilize the resources, but in a way so as not to cause any adverse impact on adaptive and resilience capacity of the environment and natural resources. Therefore, it is not only the development of human beings, but also their life is dependent upon the clean and healthy environment. Clean and healthy environment is a prerequisite for the life of the living beings right from the moment when they come to the womb of their birth giver. And if we look at the objective of environmental law, that is to preserve and protect the nature's gift to humanity, to preserve and protect the environment and natural resources not only for present generation, but the future generations as well. So, environmental law have to be implemented with a great vigor and commitment. For the proper implementation of environmental law, the environmental laws itself provide a well developed mechanism, and in case of violation of environmental law, the higher courts can be approached. Higher courts provide the remedies and ensure environmental justice. The field of environmental law in India is very wide and consists of various acts. For example, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, Forest Conservation Act 1981, the Environment Protection Act 1986, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, National Green Tribunal Act 2010. Apart from this, so far as the components of environmental jurisprudence in India is concerned, the Supreme Court of India has also played a significant role in development of environmental law and incorporating the principles of international environmental law into the Indian environmental jurisprudence, and it has also utilized the tools of public interest litigation to protect and preserve the environment. There are many cases through which the Supreme Court as well as the High Courts from various states have utilized public interest litigation to protect and preserve the environment. If we are supposed to discuss the role of judiciary in environment protection, it is imperative for us to understand that what are the articles of Indian Constitution which have been construed, interpreted, elaborated by the Indian judiciary to protect and preserve the environment. So, I would like to present before you first of all Article 21 of Indian Constitution. Friends, Article 21 recognizes right to life and personal liberty, and it says no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. In this regard, let me present before you that the word right to life has been interpreted by the Supreme Court from time to time in such a way so as to widen its scope and cover right to clean and healthy environment within its scope. Right to clean and healthy environment coupled with right to clean air, right to protection against noise pollution, right to access to natural resources, and right to clean and potable drinking water, all those have been covered within the scope of Article 21 of Indian Constitution. Apart from this, the Supreme Court of India as well as the High Courts have interpreted Article 21 in the light of Article 48A, 51AG of the Constitution of India, which provide the directive principles of state policy to preserve the forest resources, wild resources and natural resources for the Indian masses, and 51AG also provides a fundamental duty that has been added by 42nd Amendment in the year of 1976 that imposes a fundamental duty to protect and preserve the environment and to have a compassionate approach towards the living creatures. So, in the light of these articles, the tools of interpretation have been utilized by the judiciary through public interest litigation to develop environmental jurisprudence. Here, it must be kept into account that the traditional concept of locus standi has been widened. The person under the locus standi could contest only if their rights are violated, but by widening the scope of locus standi, the concept of public interest litigation has been introduced. Under public interest litigation, the parties who are having public interest, they can present the petition under Article 32 of the Constitution of India to the Supreme Court and under Article 226 to the High Courts. So, these articles have been used by the public interest litigators to protect and preserve the environment, and under these articles the Supreme Court and the High Courts have issued from time to time various directions, writs, orders and instructions to the central government as well as state government. So, these are the two most important articles dealing with the remedial aspects in cases of environment violations. As discussed earlier, that Article 48A and 51AG, these have been added by 42nd Constitutional Amendment to remind that the state is always under an obligation to protect the environment and it has to consistently strive for the protection of the natural resources. Besides, 42nd Constitutional Amendment also laid down the list of fundamental duties to be performed by the citizens of India. And one of the most important fundamental duties is duty to protect and preserve the environment, wildlife, natural resources of the country and to have a compassionate approach towards living creature. Besides, I would like to bring it to the notice of all the students that it may be kept into account that Article 253 also deals with the power of the central government to implement the commitments and the international treaties, and if in case any subject falling in the state list is relevant to international commitment or treaty, in such cases Article 253 of Indian Constitution empowers the Parliament to make any law for the whole or any part of the territory of India to honor its commitment, treaty, international agreement and convention. Against the backdrop of these articles, the higher judiciary in India has played a pivotal role in the protection of environment through public interest litigation. And in public interest litigation, it is not only the people who are affected by the pollution, but any agency, an individual or any NGO can file a public interest litigation by exercising their right to constitutional remedy and knocking the door of the constitutional courts. So, here it is imperative that the person should not be having his own interest. He should be willing to serve the public interest. Therefore, public interest litigation can be filed in the Supreme Court under Article 32 and the High Courts under Article 226 of the Constitution of India. It is worth mentioning here that the Supreme Court had also established a green bench to deal with the cases relating to environment protection. Wherever the cases and the matters of environmental pollution arose, the Supreme Court has earmarked a separate bench for dealing with the cases concerning forest protection, wildlife preservation and environment protection. Through public interest litigation, the scope of Article 21 has been widened to such an extent that it covers a variety of rights, like right to environment protection, right to potable drinking water, right to protection against noise pollution and so on. There are a few important judgments which depict the contribution of Indian courts in development of environmental jurisprudence. The first among these is Ratlam Municipality versus Vardhichand, where the issue of sanitation came before the Supreme Court under section 133 of Code of Criminal Procedure. Here, the Supreme Court recognized that right to clean and healthy environment and right to protection against noise nuisance is an inalienable right under right to life. Therefore, the Supreme Court addressed the problem of deterioration of urban environment due to poor sewage and sanitation scheme. And in this case, Justice Krishna Iyer himself visited the spot, and that is why this case is known as on-spot visit anecdote adopted by the Indian Supreme Court, where a judge from the Supreme Court, instead of appointing a commission or any other person to visit to the place, the judge himself visited the site and addressed the concern of the public regarding proper sanitation and drainage, and then directed Municipal Corporation of Ratlam to devise proper mechanism for the proper sanitation and drainage. Then comes Doon Valley Quarry case, that its technical title is Rural Litigation and Entitlement Kendra in 1987, when the Supreme Court first time opened the doors of Article 21 and explicitly mentioned that right to life covers right to clean and healthy environment. In fact, this case was based on the concern raised by the residents of Doon Valley, who filed a writ petition in the Supreme Court against illegal limestone quarry. And this mining was being done in a way which caused disturbance to the ecological diversity and beauty of the Mussoorie Hills and Doon Valley, and the Supreme Court hereby directed to stop illegal quarrying in the Mussoorie Hills. Then comes the most important case by which the Supreme Court, headed by the then Chief Justice, Justice Bhagwati, laid down the principle of absolute liability. I mean to refer the oleum gas leak case, Shri Ram Fertilizers factory, which was running its manufacturing process in Delhi, and in 1986 due to the leakage of oleum gas, many people were victimized due to the pollution of air, and the Supreme Court in this case ordered the management to pay compensation to the victims of gas leak incident, and also laid down the principle of absolute liability. That means a person, if operating or dealing with or handling the hazardous substance, and the person shall be under the responsibility to take care of those hazardous substance, not in a way that may cause the injury to the others. So, if that hazardous substance because of any reasons goes beyond the control of the person who is handling it, then the person who is handling, he is under the liability, absolute liability to pay compensation to the victims. So, in this case the Supreme Court developed the principle of absolute liability. Then comes mining in Sarisaka forest reserves, where a writ petition was filed in the Supreme Court in 1991 by Tarun Bharat Singh to stop mining in Sarisaka Wildlife Sanctuary, and through this matter the Supreme Court banned the mining in this sanctuary, that was a notified sanctuary under the Wildlife Preservation Act 1972. Moving ahead, is discussion can never be complete if we do not highlight the contribution of Advocate M.C. Mehta, who has extensively contributed in the development of environmental jurisprudence in India. Here I would like to refer his contribution through the efforts made by Shri M.C. Mehta in the protection of Ganga river against the industrial pollution being caused by tanneries situated at Kanpur. So, here M.C. Mehta filed a public interest litigation for the preservation of the Ganga, its water and its natural flow against industrial pollution being caused by polluting tanneries in Kanpur, Jajmau, where Justice E.S. Venkatramaiah observed that an industry which cannot pay minimum wages to its workers cannot be allowed to exist, and a tannery which cannot set up a primary treatment plant that cannot be permitted to continue its operation. Therefore, it directed the State Pollution Control Board to ensure that proper pollution control devices and effluent treatment plants are installed in the respective industries, and the industries which do not comply with the directions of the Supreme Court, the Pollution Control Board can authorize its power to close these industries. Moving ahead, another case where M.C. Mehta has filed a writ petition to protect Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, which is most important ancient monument of India, and it had been facing the threats due to the refineries situated in Mathura as well as brick kiln industry around the city of Agra. Here the Supreme Court ordered that the refineries and the brick kiln industries must use the pollution control devices. Those can be useful in controlling and prevention of air pollution. Besides, Supreme Court also instructed to introduce no vehicle zone area in the vicinity of Taj Mahal, and it strictly instructed that even the vehicles of VIP should not be permitted within the 500 meters radius of Taj Mahal. Then next case is regarding bricklane industry, where it is strictly ordered that all the bricklane units within the vicinity of 20 kilometers of Taj Mahal should be closed to protect the beauty of Taj as well as Bharatpur Bead Sanctuary. Besides, the Supreme Court has extensively contributed to curb the problem of vehicular pollution in Delhi as well as noise pollution by the use of firecrackers at the time of festivals, and the noise pollution through the use of sound systems at the time of religious festivals and pollution in Yamuna. Apart from this, the Supreme Court has also instructed from time to time that the provisions of Environment Protection Act 1986 must be complied with the proper vigor and commitment, and it has instructed the government from time to time to establish the appropriate authorities and introduce proper mechanism to protect the environment. So, friends, this was the discussion about the contribution of the Supreme Court through various judgments. Now, few of the principles of international environmental law also need to be underscored, like rule of absolute liability, sustainable development, principle of polluter pays, precautionary principle, and doctrine of public trust. As discussed earlier, that rule of absolute liability was developed by the Supreme Court in the matter of M.C. Mehta versus Union of India and others, recorded at All India Reporter 1987, Supreme Court 1086. The Supreme Court observed that any enterprises which is engaged in hazardous or inherently dangerous industry which poses a potential threat to the health and safety of the persons working in the factory and residing in the surrounding areas, the industry owes an absolute and non-delegable duty to the community that no harm results to anyone on account of hazardous or inherently dangerous nature of the activity which it has undertaken. So, under rule of absolute liability, there is no ground of defense available to the defense or the wrongdoer. Therefore, the person who is operating this activity is absolutely liable to pay damages to the victims. Then comes polluter pay principle. It is a kind of remedial principle which is aimed to restore the natural equilibrium before the mishap or the industrial pollution, and it imposes an obligation on the wrongdoer or on the polluting units to pay for the harm and or injury caused through pollution, and if any disturbance in the natural equilibrium or the natural environment is made. So, the Supreme Court applied the polluter pay principle in the matter of Vellore Citizens Welfare Firm versus Union of India. Then comes precautionary principle. This principle is basically aimed at anticipation, prevention, and addressing the cause of environmental deterioration, and it is aimed to ensure that scientific certainty should not be used as a reason for postponing measures. Then comes another important principle of international environmental law, that is public trust doctrine, which was applied by the Indian Supreme Court in M.C. Mehta versus Kamal Nath, wherein a motel was under construction on the bank of the river Beas, and the Supreme Court laid down that it is the responsibility of the present generation to ensure that certain resources like air, water, sea and the forest are preserved for the present as well as future generation, and these should not be made a subject to a private ownership. Then comes doctrine of sustainable development, which has been applied in the number of cases like Vellore Citizens, Rural Litigation Entitlement Kendra, Dehradun Mussoorie Hills case, as well as Bombay Manufacturing case, wherein it has been elaborated by the courts that the natural resources on this earth should be used in such a way so as to preserve them and make accessible not only to the present, but also to the future generation. And the adaptive and resilient capacity of natural resources and earth must be taken into account. To sum up, it can be submitted in view of the foregoing discussion on the contribution of the Supreme Court as well as High Courts in the development of environmental jurisprudence. It has realized and reiterated from time to time that development and environment protection are not antithesis of each other, rather development should support the goal of environment protection. It is not like that environment has always to be accommodated at the back seat, rather these should go having hands in hands together. Therefore, the Indian judiciary has innovated through public interest litigation the tools of interpretation to protect the environment and ecological resources for the present as well as future generations, and ensured intergenerational as well as intragenerational justice. And friends, these remedies have proven very useful and important so far as protection of environment is concerned, and the role of judiciary in protection of environment is praiseworthy. Thank you.